Your spine can't tell the difference between a song and a blizzard. You know the feeling? A chord hits and something cold races down your arms, your skin prickles, the hair on your forearms stands up. For about 2/3 of people, this happens with music. For everyone, it happens with cold. The French named it frisson, literally a shiver or a thrill. The word sits between pleasure and alarm. It's the same term you'd use for stepping into a cold wind, and the same term for hearing a melody that wrecks you. Here's what's physically happening. Tiny muscles at the base of each hair follicle, erector pili, contract all at once. They pull each hair upright. In a furry animal, that traps insulating air. In you, mostly hairless, it just makes goosebumps. But the reflex is ancient. But here's the strange part. That same reflex piloerection, driven by the sympathetic nervous system, fires when you're cold. It fires when you're threatened. And it fires when a soprano holds a note that makes your chest ache. Your body runs a cold survival program in response to beauty. The sympathetic nervous system doesn't distinguish between these triggers. It's the branch that handles arousal, fight or flight, the sharp intake of breath when something surprises you. Frisson rides that wiring. The signal starts in the brain, races down the spinal cord, and fires those tiny muscles in a wave. That's the chill you feel. So why would music activate a system built for cold and danger? It starts with prediction. Your brain constantly forecasts what sound comes next based on patterns it's learned. When music follows the pattern, you feel satisfied. When it breaks an unexpected chord, a sudden shift higher, a silence before the drop, your prediction fails. That failure is the trigger. In 2011, Valerie Salimpour at McGill University used PET scans to watch the brain during frisson. Musical surprise activated the striatum, the same reward circuitry involved in food and sex. But the chills started slightly before the peak. The anticipation, not the resolution, is what lights up the spine. Dopamine releases in two waves. The first during anticipation, when your brain detects something significant approaching. The second at resolution, when the chord lands. Frisson hits hardest in the gap between those waves, the held breath before release. Your nervous system treats an upcoming musical event like an approaching threat, then converts that arousal to pleasure when it resolves safely. This is the safety signal hypothesis. Music co-opts an ancient alarm system. Your body prepares for something important, heart rate rises, pupils dilate, hair stands on end, and then the music resolves instead of attacking. The relief of that non-attack registers as pleasure. The chill is the alarm. The warmth afterward is the relief. Not everyone gets it. Studies estimate between 55% and 86% of people experience frisson from music, depending on measurement. That range is wide, but the finding is consistent. It's not universal. Some people can listen to the most moving piece ever written and feel nothing in their skin. And that difference appears wired into personality. The strongest predictor is openness to experience, one of the big 5 personality dimensions. People who score high, who seek novelty, who get absorbed in art and ideas, are significantly more likely to report frisson. But the deeper correlate is more specific: cognitive absorption, the ability to lose yourself in something outside yourself. A 2016 study by Mitchell Culver at the University of Arkansas found that people who experience frisson aren't just more emotionally reactive, they're more cognitively engaged. They listen actively. They track patterns. They notice when a melody departs from where they expected. The chills aren't a sign of greater sensitivity. They're a sign of greater attention. Specific musical features trigger frisson more reliably. Crescendos, a gradual volume increase, are among the most dependable. So are sudden dynamic shifts like a drop to near silence, a new instrument entering, a vocal entrance after a long instrumental passage, a modulation to an unexpected key. Each is a prediction violation, and each tends to produce chills. One of the most studied is the appoggiatura, a dissonant note that clashes with the harmony, then resolves to a consonant one. The dissonance creates tension. Your brain predicts the resolution, but the clash delays it just long enough to spike anticipation. When resolution arrives, the relief is physical. This is why certain ballads reliably produce frisson across thousands of listeners. The most famous example is Adele's Someone Like You. Music psychologist John Sloboda cataloged the structures most likely to induce chills, and appoggiaturas accounted for a disproportionate number. The song is built almost entirely from these devices. The melisma on U in the chorus, a held note that bends and resolves, is a textbook frisson trigger. But frisson isn't limited to Western pop or classical. It appears across traditions. The alap of a Hindustani raga, a slow, unmeasured unfolding against a drone, produces it in listeners who know the form. The call to prayer. The silence between phrases in a Japanese shakuhachi flute piece. Different triggers, same mechanism. Prediction, violation, safe resolution. Lyrics amplify the effect. A 2007 study found chills were more intense when listeners understood the words. The semantic content adds another prediction layer. You anticipate where the story goes. When the lyric turns, the prediction fails on two levels, musical and narrative. The combined violation is more powerful than either alone. Habituation is frisson's enemy. The more you hear a piece, the less it affects you. Your brain learns the pattern. Predictions become accurate. Violations stop being violations. A song that gave you chills the first 10 times eventually doesn't. The surprise is gone. You still enjoy it, but the chills require uncertainty. There's a structural reason frisson clusters in certain people. A 2018 study by Matthew Sachs at USC found that individuals who experience frequent frisson have a denser bundle of neural fibers connecting the auditory cortex to the insula, a region involved in emotion and interoception, the sense of your own body. More fibers means faster communication between what you hear and what you feel. The insula is the key. It integrates sensory input with emotional state. It also processes the sensation of chills themselves. When the auditory cortex detects a surprising sound, the signal travels to the insula, which evaluates its emotional significance, then relays it to the sympathetic nervous system. The chill is the insula saying, "This matters." Which brings us back to the spine. Frisson comes from the Latin frictio, a shivering or a chilling. The sensation is named for the body part that relays it. The spinal cord is the conduit. The signal originates in the brain, but the physical experience, the wave of prickling, the standing hair, is a spinal reflex made conscious. It's the music of the spine, literally. And here's the strangest part. The reflex is identical whether the trigger is a temperature drop, a threat, or a chord progression. There is no separate music chill circuit, no dedicated beauty reflex. Your body has one system for piloerection, and it fires for cold, for fear, and for Adele. Same neurons, same muscles, same wave down the same spine. This tells us something about what beauty is at the level of the nervous system. It's not a separate category. It's a reuse. The systems that evolve to keep you alive, to detect threat, regulate temperature, mobilize your body, are the same systems that respond to art. Beauty doesn't have its own hardware. It borrows the hardware of survival. The philosopher Edmund Burke noticed this in 1757. In his essay on the sublime, he argued that awe is closely related to terror. Both involve vastness, being overwhelmed, something beyond control. The difference, Burke said, is that the sublime is terror at a safe distance. The threat is real enough to trigger the response, but too far to harm you. Music operates on exactly that principle. A crescendo isn't dangerous. An unexpected chord isn't a predator, but your nervous system doesn't have a category for musically significant. It has a category for significant and treats anything that breaks prediction as potentially important. The chill is your body saying, pay attention. Something changed. It might be cold, a threat, or the most beautiful thing you've ever heard. The people who feel frisson most intensely tend to seek out experiences that unsettle them, horror films, difficult novels, mountains, oceans. The openness that predicts frisson also predicts a willingness to sit with uncertainty, to let a prediction fail and not look away. The chill is the physical signature of a mind that allows itself to be surprised. There's a melancholy corollary. Frisson fades across a lifetime. As you accumulate musical experience, predictions become more sophisticated. Fewer things surprise you. The reflex fires less often. This isn't lost sensitivity, it's gained mastery. The same wisdom that lets you appreciate music more deeply makes it harder for music to catch you off guard. But it never fully stops. Even the most experienced listener can be ambushed. A piece you've never heard, a voice in an unfamiliar language, a melody that breaks a rule you didn't know existed. The prediction fails, the insula fires. The signal races down the spine. And for a moment, the ancient machinery of survival produces something that feels like meaning. When you feel that chill, you're not having a minor aesthetic experience. You're having a full-body event involving your auditory cortex, limbic system, insula, sympathetic nervous system, and the erector pili muscles at the base of every hair follicle you have. It's a cascade. The same cascade that fires if you step into freezing wind. The only difference is the input. Cold or sound, the spine doesn't care. Your spine can't tell the difference between a song and a blizzard. And maybe that's the most honest definition of beauty we have. It's the thing that makes your survival hardware fire as if your life depended on it, when all that's happening is a few air vibrations hitting your eardrums in a pattern your brain didn't predict. The chill is real. The threat is imaginary. And the relief, when the chord resolves, is one of the oldest feelings a body can produce. Think of the last song that gave you chills, and tell me what was happening in it the moment your spine fired.